Miles Taylor was chief of staff to DHS in the first Trump administration, but he left. And he said, to hell with this. I'm not going to be a co-conspirator in the crimes. I'm not going to be a part of this stain on American history that is these Trump administrations. And he founded this amazing organization, defiance.org, but he also is here to break news about an executive order that is cited to by DNI Tulsi Gabbard to justify her going to Fulton County and basically stealing voting ballots and tabulation and voter rolls from Fulton County. Miles is here to explain why Tulsi Gabbard, in a unclassified or declassified letter to Congress, has pretty much provided a legal roadmap for potential federal and state prosecutions of not only herself, but also for convicted felon Donald Trump. Take a listen. Joining me now is Miles Taylor. Miles, I thoroughly enjoy spending time with you. You and I seem to have been spending time on other people's shows lately. So I was like, you know what? Right. I need Miles to hang out with me on the Katie Phang News Channel. And part of the reason why is I want to catch up with you about defiance.org, which we'll do in a hot second. But I was covering for Don Lemon yesterday, as I have been wont to do lately. And you kind of broke some news, and I wanted to kind of do a deeper dive on it because I have been sounding the alarms about Fulton County for a while now, especially since they raided the elections office last week with this bullshit search warrant. And DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, about whom I have a lot of adjectives, none of which are flattering, but she was lurking around and there. And so she releases this letter on February 2nd to Mark Warner, Senator Warner, and to Jim Himes, Congressman Jim Himes, two of whom are like the most fantastic freaking people in Congress on these issues. And it was such a letter, Miles, of like, here's my excuses as to why I was there. But it's amazing because she pretty much tagged Trump through it all, saying Trump wanted me there. I was there because of Trump. And hey, there's this executive order 13848 imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in the United States election. And that's the reason why I was there. And you kind of like dropped this bomb yesterday, which is you wrote that executive order and it's not what Tulsi Gabbard thinks it is.
Well, let me say a couple things. First, I think the letter that she wrote to the Oversight Committee and to members of Congress right there, that is almost a roadmap to a future indictment. I don't know if she realizes this, but she is implicating Donald Trump in the potential meddling in state elections.
Wait, but we've gone there before, haven't we?
That's right.
Did we already do this already?
Except this time, one of his lieutenants seems to be serving it up on a platter to a future court. And then I would add this, the really important thing, Katie, there is the thing that you noted about what she said was the justification, beyond the fact that her boss, the president of the United States, wanted her there, wanted her speaking, is she referenced this executive order, 13848. It was signed in 2018 by Donald Trump. I was there at the White House the day it was signed. Why? Because I had co-written that executive order. And what is it? This was an executive order designed to help the president of the United States, any president, be able to sanction foreign bad guys if they meddle in our elections. Has nothing to do with giving people the authority to go rummage around domestically in our ballots and systems. The reason we proposed this to the White House is we wanted to send a signal to Moscow and Beijing and say, don't you dare meddle in our elections. If you do, you'll be sanctioned and we'll punish you. And let me tell you more specifically, Katie, that executive order, which anyone can look up, only has one role for the Director of National Intelligence, America's spy chief. And that role is to write a report. It says 45 days after an election, which we're not in that window right now. It's not 45 days after a national election. 45 days after an election, whoever's in that job as DNI needs to write a report to the president that says, I think foreign bad guys interfered in our election, or I don't think they interfered. And then if they did, the president of the United States is urged to go sanction them. That is it. And in fact, more specifically, Katie, we were worried that someone might misread it at some point to even suggest that people in the intelligence community would have a role in domestic law enforcement or looking at ballots. And so we wrote in that executive order, at the urging of the lawyers, that there was to be a separation between the intelligence and law enforcement functions in carrying out that order. So Tulsi Gabbard citing this as justification for her, who has no domestic law enforcement authorities whatsoever, to be in an FBI raid is false. And she's on very, very shaky legal ground. Like I said, there are going to be investigators, potential oversight committees, and prosecutors looking into that claim in the weeks, months, and years to come.
You know, I would never say that Tulsi Gabbard is dumb. In fact, I think she's pretty damn bright. And I do think, to your well-taken point, she's kind of serving up Trump and hoisting him on his own petard with this letter, because she, again, invokes Trump several times throughout the course of this letter to say, I was there because the president told me to be there. In fact, the language she said was, quote, my presence was requested by the president. And she said, again, I was specifically directed to observe the execution of the search warrant. And the other outrageous thing, too, I think, or amongst many outrageous things, she actually facilitated, and that's the verb, facilitated a brief phone call for the president to thank the FBI agents personally for their work. The DNI is hanging out with the FBI agents who, by the way, many of whom are not local. In fact, the agent in charge for the FBI in this jurisdiction, he resigned just days before this warrant was executed, allegedly because he didn't agree with what was about to come down the pipeline, right? And so she's, hanging out, rubbing elbows with FBI agents, doing all this shit in Fulton County. And it kind of makes me wonder, Miles, there isn't more important stuff for her to be focusing on?
Well, I agree with all of that, but I'd start back, Katie, with the legal piece of this that you noted, that she implicates the president. And here's the thing, just like after 2020, when Jack Smith was building his case off the fact that Donald Trump knew the election was stolen, there might be a fact pattern here, and I think there very well is, that Donald Trump knew Executive Order 13848 could not be used for the purposes of seizing election material, ignored that legal advice that it could not be used for those purposes, directed the head of the spy community to go participate in this raid. I mean, there's a lot of ways this is really bad. And I don't know who failed at the White House to safeguard the president legally from this. He's surrounded by flunkies, so it probably failed at a lot of levels. But this is not good news for Tulsi Gabbard or the president. And they either don't understand what they've just done here, which is very possible, or they don't care, which is also very possible. But they're going to care when they are out of power, because they cannot evade accountability forever. And there are serious potential violations of state law that could be at play here. And a reminder, folks, the president of the United States cannot pardon people for violations of state law, only federal law. And while he may think that he has immunity via the Supreme Court ruling, as we heard from Jack Smith, that immunity is not infinite. And if it didn't have to do with his official responsibilities, and if he knew something wasn't legal, that immunity as well could be pierced. So these are all questions that are going to be asked down the road. This will not go away, no matter how much they try to flood the zone with other controversies.
Well, and there's also no immunity for the conduct of the people that are working below him, right? And so this is a shot across the bow warning to people that are trying to blindly follow what people are telling them to do, as we see via the immigration enforcement campaigns, et cetera. It doesn't mean that you get absolved of your culpability just because the president may think he does. Explain to the viewers, Miles, the self-serving nature, though, of calling this unclassified and stamping that on all these different pieces of paper.
Well, I mean, look, I think that you regularly see with this office that they're trying to tout the officialdom of what they are doing, by suggesting that there are classified pieces to this that they can't tell the American people. And this piece that they're allowed to share, the executive order, is unclassified. Here's what I would say to that right now, Katie. They are implying that somewhere that there's foreign intelligence that suggests there was some kind of meddling that justifies them going to look at these ballots.
Oh, not just look at them, take them, by the way, the originals.
Take them away, totally take them. Now, I would go back to the fact that even if that were true, even if there was foreign intelligence to indicate that, it doesn't give the head of the spy community the authority to do that. It doesn't even give the FBI the authority to take the ballots. It gives the executive order merely gives the direction from the White House that foreign meddling should be investigated. So it's unclear if this warrant that was even carried out is a warrant that was appropriately considered. There'll be questions about that down the road, but it certainly under no circumstances would allow the director of national intelligence to be there. And again, I go back to the language of the order itself. The head of the director of national intelligence is just to write a report if that happens. I also would point to the irony here, which is that Donald Trump didn't want to sign that executive order in 2018. Now, you can reach your own conclusions, Katie, for why he didn't want to sign it. But I will speculate, as I did at the time with my colleagues, he was resistant because he didn't want to threaten Russia from meddling in the elections. He didn't want to threaten China. If anyone was going to meddle to help Donald Trump, he wanted them to meddle in our elections. So we had to twist his arm to get him to sign this document. And now years later, he's saying, oh, wait, there might have been some foreign interference that I didn't see in the elections. That's why I've got to go get these ballots in Georgia that I so conveniently had wanted to get because I needed 11,000 plus votes to put me over the top. I mean, there's another way to describe all of this, Katie, which is bullshit.
Well, yeah, that's a legal and factual truth that you just said right there. I mean, the letter concludes from Tulsi Gabbard that she will, quote, share intelligence assessments with Congress once they are complete. But then she tries to cover her ass by saying, I have not seen the warrant or the evidence of probable cause that the DOJ submitted to court for approval. Therefore, the ODNI, right, had no ability, authority, or responsibility to inform committees, as in congressional committees, about the search warrant ahead of its execution. But we've got the search warrant. We don't have the probable cause affidavit that was submitted by the special agent from the FBI in support of getting this warrant, approved by the magistrate judge. But Miles, what's crazy is that it was done by a U.S. attorney from the Eastern District of Missouri, not even in Georgia. And the probable cause, you mean to tell me that the director of national intelligence doesn't even know what the probable cause was for the crime or crimes that have been alleged to have been violated? She has no freaking clue, and yet she's invoking all of this authority to be able to go and seize these ballots?
You know what? Here's the thing. We need to get Tulsi Gabbard under oath saying what she just said in this letter, because it totally defies imagination that the president is personally directing her to lead this campaign of investigation into 2020, but she doesn't know the reasons that they're going to these places. I think there's a real good chance if that letter had been instead in testimony that she swore under oath, that she would have committed perjury. Because it just, again, it defies imagination that she's saying, I'm in charge of this campaign for the president, which she has said out there publicly, that she's leading these efforts to investigate it, but doesn't know what she's showing up for. I mean, that's like showing up at a birthday party and saying, I'm not actually sure whose birthday party it is that we're here for. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. She's covering her ass in that letter. And, there's all she's done here with this is point to different areas for potential investigation. Tulsi Gabbard, like I said at the beginning, has given us a roadmap to investigate her and the Trump administration into what seems very likely to be an abuse of power to go relitigate the 2020 election in ways that could violate state law. It could violate federal law. There's all sorts of red flags here. So in a way, look, I would say this. She's given us a gift here with this letter, Katie. If I was one of the nefarious people on her team, I would have said, look, here's the one sentence thing we should send to Congress, because otherwise you're going to get yourself into a basket of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of did that in one of those paragraphs. She's like, I didn't have to tell you ahead of time. And when I know when I'm done with my assessment, I'll do my letter, have a nice day, right? She could have done that. But again, she was kind of teeing up Trump's own exposure on this. And maybe she was doing it artfully. I don't want to give her too much credit. I don't want to give anybody in this administration too much credit, but maybe she is. I will tell everybody who's tuning in, though, for what it's worth, that there was litigation filed under seal in Fulton County, where Fulton County is suing to get these ballots and these voting tabulations and the voter rolls back from the Trump administration. And part of that litigation, Miles, is to unseal the probable cause affidavit that was the basis and the justification for the search warrant in the first place. So we may actually get to see the probable cause that allegedly exists for these crimes. But right now, everybody's just kind of asking themselves, if there were crimes, why were these not investigated? Because the answer is they weren't any. Miles, you are invaluable always with your experience and insight from being literally in the room, for example, with this EO, but you've really taken that experience and that dedication and that fight to defiance.org for folks that are just maybe getting caught up on what it is. Let people know and what your mission is.
Yeah, look, I mean, real talk. After last year, the president issued an executive order to have me investigated for having spoken out against him after his first administration. And I would like to say it was just like a mean press release, but it was a lot more than that. It blew up our lives. It destroyed a business that I was running, and the 50 people who were getting paychecks from that business no longer get paychecks because it's gone. It was decimated by that. Our family received threats. My, infant daughter received death threats. It got very, very bad. And we faced a choice, which was, did we want to, as a lot of people in our lives want us to do, lay low and just wait for it to blow over and try to rebuild our lives? Or did we want to go fight back? And we chose the latter, me and my wife, and decided to fight this and filed legal complaints. And we've got an ongoing process to challenge the constitutionality of the president's executive order. But then we decided to do something more than that, Katie, which is we felt like, you know what? If we're going to fight this thing, let's wait a few years to pick our lives back up and go back into business and whatever else. Let's go full into this fight and let's give other people what we got that helped us redouble our efforts, which was the flip from defensiveness to defiance. That totally changed our outlook. And so in October, we launched something called defiance.org, which is basically a club for courageous Americans. People join as members, and we all pool our membership fees every single week and give them to a new cause or mission to fight back against Donald Trump's abuses of power. We're not an organization that was created to reinvent the wheel of what other people are doing. The purpose is to go support the existing groups out there that are doing things in specific places around the country to push back against those abuses of power. So we've supported the whistleblowers who are coming forward and disclosing illegal activity in the Trump administration. We've supported efforts to help U.S. troops report manifestly illegal orders that they are receiving. We've gone out there and we've launched initiatives to help expand new media in battleground states where the president's going to spread disinformation in the election about the right to vote. We've helped support legal cases against Trump, constitutional cases in a court of law against him, and on and on and on. So that's what we're doing full time now. And one of those things that we just announced the other week is that we have pulled together local prosecutors around the country to form something called the Fight Against Federal Overreach. The acronym is FAFO. And I've got to say, I'm super proud of the people who are participating in this. We've got the local prosecutor in Minneapolis, Mary Moriarty, and the prosecutor in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, and folks in Dallas and Austin and Northern Virginia and all across the country who are committed to doing one thing: charging federal agents who break the law. And this is directly because of what we have seen in Minnesota. People are so frustrated that the federal government is not policing its own people. In fact, it's covering up for them. Right. It's taking them out of the state. It's refusing to release their names after they've killed American citizens. And now we are in this extraordinary moment where local prosecutors are having to get caught up and figure out how to charge federal agents, because that's a job the federal government's supposed to do. It should be the FBI that's investigating and charging DHS agents who break the law. They're not doing that at any sort of speed or in any level of accountability. And so local prosecutors have teamed up to say, you know what? We're doing that. And that's something that defiance.org helped launch. And in fact, I can report that this Friday, those prosecutors are flying into Washington, D.C. to have their first emergency meeting to talk about doing exactly this. So from announcement to meeting, I think it was about 7 or 8 days. And we conceived of it only 7 or 8 days before that. So that's the speed at which we're trying to move to fight back against these abuses of power.
You know, number one, I love the name of the organization, FAFO. And number two, having cut my teeth as a trial lawyer, as a local prosecutor, working as an assistant state attorney in a few different counties here in Florida, my hat off to those local electeds who are saying, we can't have this happen in our own backyards to our people. Notably, a good friend of the Katie Fang News Channel, a guy by the name of Robert Held. He's a Chicago lawyer and activist. He actually was on the channel speaking about the fact that the Cook County DA's office has brought battery charges against an off-duty ICE agent who threw him to the ground to get his cell phone because he didn't like the fact that Robert was standing on a public sidewalk videotaping him at a gas station and getting his information. And it really is the first of its kind, Miles, to be prosecuted because, to your well-taken point, it's now taking local prosecutors to have to find justice and accountability because we can't even count on our federal government to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, honestly, Katie, this whole thing, what we're doing at defiance.org was born out of frustration. I, just as one U.S. citizen, I'm sick of doom scrolling. I'm sick of just every day waking up and seeing the shit that's happening. And we felt like, you know what? If we're going to be in this for the next few years, let's make sure we are fighting back as much as humanly possible and doing real things in response. And this is one of those that I think people want more than anything. They just want to see accountability for what's happened in Minnesota, for the videos they see every day. Why are federal agents allowed to point guns at unarmed people who are exercising their First Amendment rights? Why are they allowed to hit them and threaten them and box them in and beat them and jail them? In some cases, kill them. Why is that happening? Why is there not accountability? And you know this better than me as a lawyer. If you're a local prosecutor, you're not charging a lot of cases like that. You're not used to charging federal agents with breaking the law. And so there's a big component here that's just comparing notes, sharing strategies, and educating. And so what we're trying to do is, as fast as humanly possible, bring as many of these DAs together to help them understand how to take on these cases. So when you see that social media video in Indianapolis or Charlotte of an ICE agent or a DHS officer committing a crime, that local DAs don't have to wait months to figure out how to charge the case. They're prepared, they're ready, they're able to do it, that they have the resources, and they can make it happen so that there's real accountability until this administration's gone and we've restored the role of the FBI to actually police these crimes.
Defiance.org is kind of taking up almost even a rapid response space too, right? Miles, it sounds like you're seeing a need and you're responding quickly and accordingly. If people want to learn more about Defiance.org and become a part of this movement, where should they go?
Well, so a couple things. You're right. I mean, we're trying to do rapid response. The other day when our buddy Don Lemon got arrested, I was on the way to the airport and we were supposed to have a day off, and I woke the team up on the West Coast and I said, hey guys, I think we should ASAP launch a fund to defend independent journalists, because our buddy Don's probably going to be able to take care of himself, but Georgia Fort and some of these other new media journalists who don't have, there's not insurance policies protecting them for their work. They don't have the resources to go fight the federal government. And so we rapidly raised, I think we raised close to $50,000 to go defend them. We're in touch with both of their legal teams to say, hey, let us pay some of these bills. And we're ready for the next case of journalists being arrested to defend them, because we need to send a message to people. Don't start censoring your news coverage because you're worried about being arrested by this administration. Do your jobs and people will have your backs and crowdsource support for you. So those are the types of things we're trying to do. Folks can just go to the site. They can sign up for free at defiance.org if they want to just read our updates, see what we're doing, see what actions we're taking. And if they want to become a member, we've set it so that the member fee is whatever you decide it is. If you want to pay $1 a month or $1,000 a month, you can. And then we get together as a group and we decide how we're going to go support organizations. So tonight, for instance, at 5 p.m. Eastern in 30 minutes, from my time here, we'll have our monthly member meeting. And, we sit down once a month as a membership group and we decide where we're going to focus our fire. And then every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, we do a public broadcast where we talk about the action we are taking that week. Every single week, we do something new to hold this administration accountable. So folks are welcome to come join us. We've got 10,000 full-time members of the club and 100,000 supporters around the country. Come be a part of defiance.org.
How incredibly empowering, Miles, for you to allow people to take control and have agency over how they respond to the injustice that we are seeing happening in real time. I think I've always admired you and your wife, your young child, like your whole family's response to this. Being accused of treason is no light fare. And you have just responded in a way that really has, I think, reinvigorated the fight. And so, Miles Taylor, I am lucky and privileged to call you a friend, but I also consider you to be one of the greatest American heroes we have right now. So thanks for spending time with me and for getting people really invested on how we're going to be tackling the rest of this. I appreciate you.
Well, Katie, you are amazing. And I'm going to put you on the spot. If you're around February 24th, I've been meaning to shoot you this message. We'll text separately, but would love for you to come be at the State of the Union event that we are doing. We're going to host the largest rebuttal to Donald Trump's State of the Union at the National Press Club, 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern in Washington, D.C. And folks can join virtually if they can't make it to D.C. if they want to. They can join for free. They can go to defiance.org/SOTU, SOTU. We've got Robert De Niro speaking and Mark Ruffalo and all kinds of celebrities and thought leaders and senators and congressmen. It's going to be the biggest pro-democracy rebuttal to Trump's State of the Union. So, Katie, I hope you can be there. We'd love to have you there with us. And I hope your viewers can join us as well to speak loudly together about what this man is actually doing to the state of our union.
I've been saying this a lot since I got back from Minneapolis last week, Miles. I went to George Floyd Square, and the sign that was prominently displayed was "Where there's people, there's power." So I keep on leaning into that because I feel like that's the anthem for who we are today. Miles Taylor, thanks for being here. I appreciate you.
Thanks, my friend. Great to see you.
Katie Fang here. We launched the Katie Fang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.